Hey everybody, Mr. Mike the Science Guy here. I am in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana. We're out excavating or prospecting, looking for fossils. It is a beautiful day out here. Temperature is in the upper 60s. And so what we're going to be doing is looking for fossils. Now, what you can see behind me, those are not mountains. Those are called buttes. Buttes are different than mountains because they are not in chains. Buttes are isolated land formation, generally flat topped, and they erode over time with rain. So what we do to find fossils is we will walk the edges of the buttes, and we're looking for what's called float. Float is something that breaks off from the fossil and tumbles down the hill as rain erodes more and more of the fossil. Pokes out of the ground, and those pieces break off, tumble down the hill, and what we have to do is we have to try to find them. So I'm looking, and I think maybe this might be a piece, and one of the ways to find out is you tap it. The rock hammer is a tool that we utilize to excavate and see if that's a potential fossil. Now, the noise it makes can help tell if it is a fossil. We also need to inspect it visually to see if it is a fossil as well. Fossils are not bones. They've gone through a process where all of the bone is replaced by minerals. Here I think I found a piece of float, so I'm going to inspect this. When I pick it up, it's generally covered in mud, so I need to identify different pieces of it. You can tell if it is a fossil or used to be a bone by seeing if you can see the porous interior of it. Bones have a hard outer surface called cortical bone, which I'm pressing on right now, and the interior is called cancellous. It's very porous. So I found a piece of float. And now what I've got to do is track that back up the hill. Generally, you will find other pieces of it scattered in the direction from where it came. I've got to track that back up, and so I'm looking right now to see if I can find more. It looks like we've got another piece right here. And then I'm going to check and see if I can find where that's coming from. You can see all of the loose sandstone on top there. And we're looking to see if we can find where the fossil is protruding out of the ground. That's what we want. Generally, the float is not very good. Again, here's another piece of what I think is float, and I want you to listen. You can hear the difference when you tap it on the rock hammer. Fossils sound a lot more dull, whereas rocks, which is what this piece is right here, is a little higher. It's a higher pitch to it. So I'm looking around. I don't see where this float comes from. It happens quite often. Maybe that fossil was just a small piece that broke off over time and tumbled down the hill. Here you can see another location where I'm prospecting. We have a nice piece of float right here. This is actually a great specimen. And what we're going to do then is we're going to keep looking up the butte. I can see here is another larger piece. And then as we move along here, there's even a pretty decent sized chunk to my right. There's a nice small piece here, but this is a huge piece. Now, this is a pretty eroded piece, and there's lichen and moss that's grown on it, so this isn't something that's good for research. But if we keep looking up the hill, we're going to see if we can see where this is protruding from. My friend Sophia and I have found something protruding out of the side of this butte here. Our next job is to start the excavation process. Now, that takes a lot of delicate work because these fossils are millions of years old. In the Hell Creek Formation, the only thing that really grows is some types of prairie grass, but predominantly sage. That's that plant that's around it. So what we are doing now is we're working to clear off pieces of this fossil right now. We have to work very carefully around it. We're using knives and brushes. You can use heavier power tools depending on the type of rock or stone or soil that the fossil is embedded into. Here we have a very, very loose, soft soil, so we can move that with just small shovels. Even our hands, as you can see right here, we're able to clear that off of. Let's take a little bit of a closer look. So as you can see, the original fossil has gotten much larger. We've removed quite a bit of what's called overburden. It's part of the hill, so that we can continue to access the entirety of the fossil. As we started removing overburden, you can see here it exposed more of what we're hoping is related to this fossil, but it's pretty broken up over here. We have to be very careful with this. This fossil has been here for millions of years, and the roots have definitely not helped it. It's very, very fragile, so even the brush is dislodging pieces of it. These are the pieces, again, that's called float, that were poked out of the ground. It exposed due to weathering and erosion. And what that did then is allowed us to find about this much of that sticking out of the hill, which as we've progressed in our excavation has led us to this. We're getting ready to remove some more of the overburden. We can only go by meters squared, so about 3 feet by 3 feet, and after that we'll probably have to get a bigger permit. At this point we are taking out the sage and removing that overburden to expose more of the fossil. Now once we get more of it exposed, we're going to have to pour something on it called Vinac to help protect it, because this thing has been in the ground for close to 65 million years. As we start to move it, it can break apart, so we need to make sure that we protect that. And we have quite a bit of work to do in removing the dirt and the overburden around that fossil while protecting it. Now, we don't dig up and away from the fossil, we dig down towards it because we want to make sure that we don't damage it. Once we get down closer to where the fossil's at, we make sure we use smaller tools like hand shovels, brushes, and knives versus the larger picks and heavier tools. So what we're going to do right here is secure the fossil, because as we're trying to excavate it, parts of it are really loose. So we have something here called Vinac. Vinac is a solution that can bind it. It's predominantly plastic. And it evaporates and dries and holds the fossil together for us to be able to jacket it, which we will explain what that is just a little bit later. So we want to make sure that we've got most of the dust or dirt, as much as we kind of can, out of here without dislodging too much of the actual fossil. And then you just slowly pour just a little bit of that on there. And it dries relatively quickly, which is what you want. That helps you preserve and protect that fossil. And we can remove this later in a lab setting to be able to help process it. And I think that's all we have time for in this first episode. Thanks for tuning in to watch how to prospect and to excavate. Be sure to like and follow for more.